Hi, I'm Alan Walker of UDA and I'm here at IHR Live in Manchester. Spending time with TA, recruitment and employer brand folk, finding out what interesting things they're doing in their business so the rest of us can learn and maybe implement some cool stuff where we're working. So I'm delighted to have with me Zach Hughes from the Keem Group. Zach, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You're new to me. You might not be new to everybody watching this video, but let's assume nobody knows you. Can you quickly introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, and maybe a little bit about them as well?
My name's Zach. I'm the employer brand manager for Keem Group. Came from recruitment background, so used to be in the executive search world, and then got exposed to marketing as part of that, and then suddenly found that there was this thing called employer branding, which I kind of stumbled upon, but has been really good use of kind of my skills and experience. But what we're doing with Keem Group at the moment is we're kind of at the start of the journey, but we're really trying to make a case for working in independent opticians, kind of trying to provide and educate the market on kind of a third way, if you want, that isn't the usual career route of Specsavers or Vision Express, that people have more options, and trying to bring a bit of personality to that as well.
Okay, excellent. We'll come on to that in a second. So, is this your first IHR, your fifth, or where are we at?
It's my first IHR event, so it's been really good actually.
Okay, what have you enjoyed so far? Which talks have you sat in?
So I quite enjoyed the first talk with Appcast about programmatic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
that was really interesting to see some of the stats behind that and the kind of level that they're obviously operating at in the States, and how the UK market is about to, it sounds like, adopt that a bit more.
So that's all around the programmatic stuff, isn't it? And
yeah, exactly. And I think there's always all sorts of ideas kind of going on during that talk, and that was something that I've kind of been aware of, but never really kind of have really wanted to delve into my own too much. So it's quite interesting to hear from them. And then just being around recruitment folk again, I think getting out of the office is always nice, and seeing people that I used to work with or familiar with, it's just been quite a nice, friendly atmosphere. It's good to be back in Manchester as well, to be honest.
Before we go on to the kind of talking about what you do at the Keem Group, or something specific around that anyway, I'm really interested to see that leap from executive search into employer brand. You often see people coming from marketing going to employer brand.
Yes.
It's rare that recruiters go into it actually.
Yeah.
How did that journey happen?
Well, I kind of fell into recruitment like everybody.
Well,
does.
But ditto.
Yeah,
likewise.
And got picked up by this agency, and I was involved in kind of setting up their marketing desk.
Okay.
So I did history, so again, not really aware of marketing either. So I kind of had to do a lot of teaching myself to sound like I know what I'm talking about. And then
again, ditto. That's 90% recruiters.
Exactly. So just kind of learned a lot through osmosis, and kind of the more I got into it, actually this is probably more down the lines of what I want to do, but kind of picked up the fact that I do really enjoy, selling a company and talking to people and having a people-facing role. So I started exploring just marketing jobs, and eventually managed to change my role internally to a marketing exec.
Nice.
And then COVID happened.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was on furlough for ages. And then I was back for about 2 weeks after furlough and was offered a position with Keem Group. And Keem Group, the role was pretty open-ended when it first started, and there was a very basic recruitment function there, and separate to that was a really good, lively brand. And the way the business has grown through acquisitions, it did feel like recruitment was starting to just feel the strain a bit, and I think there was just an opportunity there for someone who's kind of been on both sides of the fence a little bit to bring the departments a bit closer together. So I kind of again muddled into it more than anything. It wasn't a career plan or anything like that. It was more of a case of recruitment needs to speak to marketing, marketing needs to speak to recruitment. So it started off with a lot of just process mapping for recruitment, bringing in an ATS system, and then lead into things like, okay, now we're in a position to revamp our careers website, which we've just launched as well, and this year we've started our first paid social campaigns as well for careers. So it's kind of just been a case of this needs to happen, and I seem to have just been the person to kind of just round everything up, and then lo and behold, employer branding is a thing. You know,
Story of my
if you'd told
career.
me a year ago it was a thing, I wouldn't have been able to say it was.
So I guess in your world, from the outside looking in, I know nothing about the world of opticians, but in my mind I'm thinking one optician's job in one company versus another, it's the same job, what does it matter where you work for?
Yeah.
How do you differentiate yourself in somewhere like Keem Group then?
So it is actually quite different, and again, I've got a pair of glasses.
That's my ignorance, by the way.
No, it's, there's a lot of the day-to-day for an optometrist, which is the person who tests your eyes.
Yeah.
Is quite different in an independent versus a multiple.
Okay.
So typically the time that your eye exam takes is longer, and the access that the practices can have in terms of the variety and quality of frames and lenses and testing equipment is also generally better, or at least there's more choice there.
Yeah.
So what we tend to find is we'll be speaking to clinicians in multiples who are getting a bit burnt out with 20 to 25 minute eye exams, and they're monitored quite closely on their conversions to sales.
Yeah.
And there's slightly less emphasis on the clinical side, because these people have a commercial focus, they've got a business to run.
Yeah.
Whereas most clinicians go into it because it's healthcare.
Yeah.
They want to test
something
eyes.
they're passionate about. Yeah.
Passionate about it. So what we've tried to say is, well, actually, because the day-to-day is so different in an independent, we're targeting those people who are just starting to feel that burnout about 4 to 5 years into the career, where they're also at the point where they've had some experience and can see what else is out there.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, all of the multiples kind of own the early career side of things as well. They're the only ones at the moment who really speak to universities. They have really good pre-registration years, and all of this stuff kind of set up.
Because they've got the size, the volume, the scale, etc., to be able to have people dedicated to doing that, whereas a local optician wouldn't be able to.
But that's where Keem Group's trying to come in and say, actually, you can still be independent, and it's still your name above the door. You won't see a Keem Group practice.
Yeah.
It's still Smith & Sons or whoever it's been for the last 25, 30, sometimes 100 plus years. But they've now got access to all of this support.
They've got the kind of might of the Keem Group behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. And for clinicians working there as well, we've also got people, teams dedicated to career development and gaining additional qualifications or becoming a director or a partner in a business as well. So it just means that you can still stay independent, but you've got access to everything else that you might have wanted from a multiple.
So what are the origins of the Keem Group? I'm interested in it as a business as well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting business model.
So it was founded by a guy called Imran Hakim, who's still our CEO. He's a qualified optometrist himself. He is a bit of an entrepreneur, so he was actually on one of the early series of Dragon's Den.
Oh, really?
And was one of the first successful pitches there for something completely different.
Oh, really?
Something called iTeddy, which at the time was an advanced kids' toy.
Yeah.
But he did some work with Vision Express and looked at their kind of joint venture partner model, and being the entrepreneur he is, I guess, spotted an opportunity to do something a little bit different.
Oh,
and then he got a small loan from his dad to start up his own practice, and just started acquiring and building things from there, really. So
fascinating. So how do you guys, you talked about the targeting of opticians, like where they are in their career journey, 4 or 5 years in, they're probably getting a bit burnt out, etc. How do you sell the dream of working within the Keem Group?
So it is about that day to day, because you'll speak to a lot of optometrists and they'll say, I really like being an optometrist, but it can get really repetitive.
Yeah.
You can, at a certain point, you'll see in patients who are very similar, they've got very similar eye conditions, they can do the job with their eyes closed, but with...
Boom!
Yeah, exactly. But in an independent, you'll tend to see more specialist cases, so it's not just the fact that the equipment's generally better and you've got higher quality frames, it's the fact that you've got the opportunity to learn and do something different on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
And that for them, because they do something day in, day out, is a really big draw, because it's all about variety. And because we've got so many different types of practices, we've got practices which are super high end and fashionable, and we've got some which are the opposite of that, but you'll find people prefer working in those practices sometimes because the variety of patients that come in.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we pick up on as well, is that we're in quite a strong position to offer people something a bit different today.
You talked about paid social advertising. How's that working out for you?
So we're at the early stages. We started in March with the launch of our careers website. So we first off went and did some bespoke video content in practice, and we've spent quite a lot of time figuring out what that needs to look like, and it's the first time we've really designed anything with social in mind and putting social first. So we've kind of got the hero content and then obviously shorter cuts for social. But we found that LinkedIn has been very useful from an awareness point of view. The completion rates on our videos are really, really high.
Right, okay, interesting.
And obviously they've changed their platform recently, so we're now able to retarget, which we're about to launch as well. Facebook has also been really good. We get our most conversions through Facebook, and again the reach is really good, and we're getting better as time goes on. We've had some issues with retargeting video views on there, but that seems to have sorted itself out now. But generally, I think at the moment with our new careers website, I think it's sitting about 60% of traffic comes from paid social, and it's a big boost in traffic from where we were before as well.
And is it overall offering a good ROI in terms of how you would have previously recruited?
Yeah, so because we've got an ATS system now as well, it's so much easier to track everything from kind of start to finish. So we are filling roles through it. We are generally seeing engagement with the website going up in terms of pages per session. So the depth and the awareness piece is just as important for us, because people have generally heard of Keem Group, but because it's an interesting model, people can sometimes associate us with being a multiple,
right? Okay.
Or with just being a buying group. So it's not just about conversions; it's about educating the market to say, "Oh, actually, this is what they do," and now I know how to engage with the company. And I think as time goes on, we'll start to see that hopefully have an impact.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're going good guns and you're achieving some great results so far. What's next? What other ideas have you got?
I think next is, we've been doing these campaigns here and there. We're at the start of a piece of research as well with our optometrists. We're going to be surveying them and running focus groups over the next month or so to gain a baseline level of data. The business has grown a lot through acquisition and it's grown really fast, so we're trying to make sure that the decisions we make are informed. So that's going to inform a lot of what the next stages are, as well as the data that we get from these campaigns that we're doing at the moment. And then I think off the back of that, we're going to have an employer brand, I suppose. We're going to actually have a full end-to-end brand rather than...
The whole EVP thing and everything else.
The whole EVP, whole support service and benefits package and everything. So that is probably where it's going towards the end of this year.
Excellent. Listen, great to meet you. Been a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much.
What have you got planned after this session?
I think I've got to talk now on the candidate experience.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to see where it takes me after that.
Cool. Okay, no worries. Thanks, mate.
Great.